All right, cool. So I'm Heather Romero. I'm a fifth grade teacher at Lyle, and we're going to be talking about YouTube for math instruction. So I started YouTube for my math instruction about a year and a half ago, and I was thinking about what would be a good use of my classroom time specifically, just because whenever I do whole class lessons, it would usually be just like a total mess because you have some kids over here messing around, these kids need a lot of help over here, these kids are moving way fast and they're super bored. So I thought about what would be the best use of my classroom time, and that's why I decided to start creating these videos because I found that flipped learning worked really, really well for my classroom. And flipped learning is just when you create videos for your instruction, and then you kind of push those out to your students either at home or at school. Since my classroom, a lot of my students don't have tech at home, I have them use the videos at school primarily for their instruction. It's usually been math instruction so far. So it's very different from the traditional classroom kind of instructional methods, but I've done like a lot of research on it over the year, and I've seen a lot of benefits for it. So it does sound like a lot of work, and it kind of is, but there are a lot of benefits to this. So when we're talking about why should teachers try this, we've all seen these super bored kids in our class during our lessons, or kids that just aren't engaged. And I found that with the videos that I've done in my classroom, the kids have just been so much more engaged. And I took a survey of why my kids were more engaged, what did they think about the videos, and they would say things like, it helps me if I'm having a hard time with lessons. I feel like it's just helping me more than just listening to you up at the board. And they have the ability to re-watch that lesson. So you might not always be available for that reteach in class, but if you have the video, then they can go back and re-watch that. Then for other kids, they said like sometimes they just had no clue what I was teaching about when I'm up front, especially doing that tier 1 instruction. So when they have those math videos in front of them, they just are maybe paying attention more or just able to understand it a little bit better. Some kids just like not having to look at the board all day. And then a lot of kids like it because if they have difficulty with homework, they can go back and rewatch the video to help them out with any homework assignments. And even parents find that really helpful as well because especially like Eureka math, there's so much difficult like terminology and tape diagrams and all those different things that parents might want to help their kids with homework but not really know how to. So this has been really helpful with that. Then I also surveyed my kids on just what they thought of the videos, and they said that they preferred, 84% of them said they preferred this over traditional methods, 88% said they believe that they were learning more this way, and 64% said that they would like more teachers to try this type of instruction out. And so it really changed the way that I taught in my classroom, and I find that I'm able to spend a lot more time teaching like face-to-face with my kids, even though I do have these videos, because my kids that are moving really fast through a lesson, I can then sit down with them and say, okay, let's work on maybe a more advanced concept or something like that, or let's further develop this standard, while my kids who need to move slower have that opportunity to move slower and really understand that lesson because they have that option to rewatch and rewind and even slow me down if they need to. And I've had like notes that they'll fill out in front of them, so it helps them kind of learn how to note take, different things like that. And then, so some other benefits of flipped learning in the classroom, kids have more control over their learning, and I think that also helps them take some more accountability over it as well. They're easily accessible for all of your kids, so if you have kids that are absent, they can view the lessons. I've had a kid that was in the hospital for like 2 weeks, and she was able to keep up with math because of the videos. That was really nice to have that. And then they can review previous content, so I'll make videos on concepts that I know we have to go back to a lot in 5th grade, like figurative language or like long division, multi-digit multiplication, just so they can get that reteach if they need. It creates a much more efficient use of your classroom time. You can track your student progress this way, so I can say, okay, this student is on lesson 9 today, but this student wasn't here for the past 2 days, so I know that they're on lesson 8. And then, of course, there's that higher student engagement as well. And then of course, there's drawbacks to anything that you're going to be doing in your classroom. So the digital divide is probably one of the bigger drawbacks to this. So unfortunately, a lot of our kids don't have technology at home, so they don't have that ability to watch your videos and things like that. So my solution to this is I usually just have the students watch the videos in the classroom. Normally, flipped learning has the kids watch the videos at home and then come to the classroom the next day ready to learn. But especially in the elementary setting, that's not always possible. So I usually just have them watch them in class and then go from there doing centers or further instruction, whatever I need. There's a potential for lack of face-to-face contact, but with blended learning, you just want to make sure that you're getting a good mix or blend, essentially, of that tech learning, that flipped learning with maybe small groups or that one-to-one instruction as you see that they need it. And then time-wise, that's probably the biggest deterrent for most teachers when they look at flipped learning, because it does take time to make these videos. And it can be difficult. I usually take about 20 to 30 minutes per video, so sometimes I'll have to take like a whole plan period, or after school I'll take 20 to 30 minutes to make my videos. But I do think of it as a way that I'm helping myself out next year. So when I am teaching these lessons, I can recycle a lesson from the previous year sometimes, and that makes it a lot easier. So I see it as kind of just a good investment of my time.
And sometimes, especially when you're starting out and you're not feeling comfortable in front of the camera, if you find videos for your math, like Eureka has tons of math videos out there, you can start having them watch that just to get them into the routine and just get comfortable with the setup of doing that, so you don't have to, rush to get your videos done either.
Right. Yeah. So using other people's videos is always an option, as well. And then when we talk about the actual video creation part of this, there's usually 6 steps that I'll follow to do this. So I'll pick a lesson that I want to teach, and it doesn't have to be math. I've done it before where I've done instructions, and I'll just record a video of myself giving instructions for like a big project, so that I'm not constantly repeating myself on that. And then after that, I'll review what I want to say. So sometimes I'll write an outline or just like bullet points of what I'm trying to say for that video. And then after that, you're going to want to pick a video recording platform, and I have some resources I can show you later on for that. And then just decide how you want to upload those videos. After that, you can record your video, upload, and then decide when you want to share that with your class. And just some tips, your videos again can be on any lesson that you want to do. It doesn't just have to be math instruction. You can create a script for what you want to say, but most importantly, just pretend like you are actually teaching your class. Or not really even pretend, just actually teach your class. So don't be shy in front of the camera, just teach how you normally would in front of your students, just so it feels a little bit more natural. And then you can also create test videos to help make sure that your videos are, the audio is correct, your visuals are correct, things like that.
Yeah. And if you make a mistake, small mistake, don't scrap the whole video, because when you're teaching, you sometimes make mistakes too, so that's okay. If you miss up a word or something, it's just like being there. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Right. So just some examples of what I've done over the past year is I created a YouTube channel to kind of store all of our videos. And technically at 109 we all have a YouTube channel. You just need to upload it, because your YouTube channel is actually just your email. So you can just upload everything onto YouTube if you decide to use this, or you can always do it onto Google Drive as well. So I'll tell parents or kids, just look up Heather O'Meara on YouTube, and then I'll be the first thing that will pop up. And then there's lots of different videos on here that they can view. And on the actual channel itself, they'll see the previews of my most recent lessons, but then they'll also see that I have playlists. So if I tell parents, okay, well, they were really struggling with multiplying or adding decimals, then they need to go back to module 2, and then they can go back to this playlist, and this playlist will have everything that they would need from module 2, and then you can see all the lessons there. Don't know if routine lessons are so, by the way, those are different places or different ways that you could use YouTube for that. And then just some other ways that you could get started with the videos is like when I first started, I just did it as a way to create instructions for my reading centers. So instead of having like my kids constantly asking, what do I do at this center, what do I do at this center, I would just create a video for each center's instructions, posted them on Google Classroom, and then they were able to follow those for each day of the center that they were doing. You can make small videos on a math concept that you know that they're gonna go back to a lot. Like in 5th grade, we go back to long division and multi-digit multiplication pretty often. So just having that there for them so you're not constantly having to reteach.
Math vocabulary also is good when you're introducing and you don't want them to forget new vocabulary. Just make a short video that just keeps emphasizing that, so if they forget what a fraction is, go watch that video and reinforce what fraction is and those terms so that they constantly fresh in their minds.
You could read a story and ask questions throughout it. So I've done it with our quarterly novels, like we've been reading Watson's Go to Birmingham and The Circuit recently. So I'll do like a read aloud of that book and then ask questions throughout the book, just to make sure that they're paying attention and kind of understanding what's happening in the story. You could pick a lesson that you would love to teach, but you just don't have the time for. So maybe it's a coding lesson, maybe it's just whatever your passion is. You could always create a video of that and share that with your students. If you're doing writer's workshop, I found that maybe having like a video of you actually writing out a narrative or an information essay and just showing them like your writing process helps the kids out so they have an actual visual understanding of how they can get started on this. I found that to be super useful, especially with the information writing. And then just some resources for how you can actually record these videos. When I first started, I used screencastify pretty often, and that was a really easy platform to use, and it's just a Chrome extension. If you want to create more advanced videos, you can use Screencast-O-Matic, and these do have yearly subscription costs. Screencastify is about $20 for the year. Screencast-O-Matic is about $40, but you do get like video editing privileges and things like that. But you also have things like web camera, I/O, WeVideo to help you out with that. Camera-wise, most of our Chromebooks have cameras, and you can just record off your Chromebook. The desktops in some of our classrooms have a webcam, so you can record off of that, or you can get like an actual physical webcam and use that.
One that would do it from above. Like, can you use the dot?
You can use the dot
cam.
cam,
yeah.
Okay.
And you can use the dot cam. I've done a couple of math videos on the dot cam, especially like graphing lessons and things like that. Work a lot better with the dot cam.
Like watching you do it here and it's here.
Yeah, so you can use the dot cam and record videos off of that as
Okay.
well. And all of these programs let you pick and choose between like which camera you're using, which mic you want to use, so it doesn't have to be stuck to whatever is built into the Chromebook or desktop. Then we're uploading, I'll usually just upload to YouTube because I find that easiest, but you can just upload your things onto your Google Drive. It'll create a folder, and then all of your videos will be in that, and you can share those from there. Platform-wise, where how I'll send the video out to my students, I'll use Google Classroom mainly, and I can show you what that looks like. But you can also use Edpuzzle, which is something where you can upload the videos onto those websites, and then insert questions and things like that throughout the video as well. And then I'm going to show you real fast Screencastify. So if you want to use Screencastify, I found this to be the easiest way to record my videos. You just need to Google Screencastify, and you can just add it to your Chrome browser. You'll click on the little Screencastify arrow, and then it'll give you all of these options. So you have the option to just record your browser tab. So I've done it before where I've given my kids like a tutorial video on how to play Prodigy. So I'll record like my browser and like how to do different things on Prodigy so they can see how that works. You can just record like your entire desktop, or you could do a webcam only video. And that's usually how I'll do my lessons. I'll kind of place it in front of me with the board behind me and I'll teach from there. You can choose like your microphones and your cameras with the drop down boxes, and then once you're ready you can press records, and it'll give you a little countdown, and after that you can, record your video.
Yeah, I thought this was a video, I'm like, what?
Yeah,
is it? And I'm like, wait.
yeah. And then, so you'll see it's recording, it's at like 9 seconds now. But after that, you can stop it, and after you stop it, it will pop up after a couple seconds with a new tab. So be patient with it.
Like by microphone, you mean like you can plug in like. if
Yeah,
you have,
so
like,
if
a
you have
sound-
like,
Like you have like a blue Yeti. you
yeah,
plug
so
that
if
in.
you have like
Which
a
I
better microphone or a better webcam than
Okay.
what we have at school, you can always do that.
Okay.
So you can see, here's our lovely video we just created. You can trim videos on Screencastify, so if there's like, you had like a weird introduction or
Yeah.
something or a bad ending, you could just, cut that
Oh,
off.
thanks.
Yes.
Bad ending.
But the great part about Screencastify is, if you'll see on the right side of the screen, there's all these really easy ways to share your videos with your class. So if you just click up here, you could like, let's say I actually taught a lesson here. I could say, okay, here's my dividing fractions video. And then if I wanted to share it directly to my Google Classroom, I would just click on this and then share it through Google Classroom. So it makes it really easy to get started in this sense if you use Screencastify, because pretty much all the tools you need would be in this.
If you do like I'm saying the above one, can you put it in Screencastify or would that have to be in a different format?
If it could still be on
It's still right
Screencastify.
Your desktop.
Yeah, so
You
what
just
you
do-
would do is when you click on the Screencastify like Chrome extension, you would just, after, give it a second, you would just click on like what mic you wanna use and then what camera you wanna use, so like, since.
They would come up.
Yeah, it
on
would
there.
come here, like, I know
Okay.
mine is like the Hello something something.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you would just click on that and just wait for it to switch over, and then you
So
can.
you're
just
saying
go
if once they're plugged in, those would show up in your
Yes.
microphone
Yes.
and, okay.
Yeah, so if I had like other things plugged in right now, different options will pop up, and you can pick and
Got it.
choose between
Oh,
what
that's
you
nice.
use. Yeah, so it makes it really, really easy.
Yeah. You don't have to be on the video to do a lesson.
Yeah, no, I just like a lot
Yeah.
of math,
Yeah, examples.
I like
Easy
both,
that
I like
way, yeah.
sometimes they get to see, I feel like they like to see you sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes they wanna see your face,
It
sometimes they
Yeah,
don't.
and they're like, okay, enough
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah, it depends
Yeah.
what you're teaching that day.
Yeah.
If it's that you need to show them an example or a couple of examples, then the dot camera would be great to do that.
I found like if I'm doing like a big graphing lesson, like I
Yeah.
don't wanna draw like an entire
Yeah,
board
exactly.
and play like on the board, so
Uh-huh.
I'll do the dot cam for that.
Okay.
So just making the most out of your videos for your students. I would definitely teach your students how to watch the videos. Because if you just sit them down in front of a video and say, watch this and learn for 10 minutes, they're probably not gonna take too much out of that. But if you show them, all right, this is how we're gonna write notes, this is what you can do, kind of setting some ground rules, like don't, jump all the way to the end or put me on fast forwards. I think that really helps out so that they can see how they can properly watch the videos instead of just like throwing them into it. When you're making the videos, try to create those moments of interaction. So whenever I'm making like a math video, I'll say, okay, pause here, complete this problem, and then show me your work from there, and then you can keep watching the video. Also, I would watch out for like lengthy videos, because usually the kids will get bored past like 20-ish minutes. So I try not to make anything too long. And then also just don't worry about perfection. Again, like we're human, like you're gonna make mistakes, and that's fine. My golden rule is just don't rewatch your videos.
Yeah.
Because you're just gonna
Yeah.
nitpick every single thing you do. So I'll watch like the first 10 seconds just to make sure like the audio is fine and the video quality is fine, and then past that I'll just upload it onto YouTube or Google Classroom and call it a day from there. Because if you don't, then you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I kept playing with my hair, I said this was weird, what was I doing here?
I didn't like the way I looked.
Right, yeah, so you're just gonna nitpick every single thing. So I would suggest not rewatching them all the way.
Because you can always redo. If the kids start watching it and they're totally confused, you could go, okay, let's make another one and I'll
Right.
make it clearer.
And then just be available for that face-to-face teaching. So again, this is a blended learning kind of instruction method. So if a kid just isn't getting it from your video, then just be available for that small group or one-to-one instruction for them if they need it. And then just decide if you want your students to watch it at home or school. Again, because of that digital divide, watching at home might not always be an option for them, so I usually always make it available in the classroom.
Do you find that the kids like actually go back and like look at them as like reference?
Yeah, they do.
'Cause, like I'm at the junior high in
Yeah.
math, and for us to have them go back and reference something in math, it's like pulling teeth
Yeah,
sometimes.
definitely. Uh-huh.
We do a lot of like
Mhm.
reference sheets and stuff.
Yeah, I think if you just kind of show them how they would do that, so just saying, okay, we're moving on to this concept, maybe it's, I don't know what you guys do in middle school, but maybe you could show them, okay, we're learning about this, but you're gonna need this skill, so like you need to know how to do multi-digit multiplication here. So here's the video for multi-digit multiplication if you wanna go back and review this before you jump into this new video for whatever the next concept is.
And because
Cause
it's
the
a
kids
kid,
after her and they're
Yeah.
like, oh, what's wrong? Did you make videos like Mr. Ram? No.
Yeah.
and because it's a video,
They're like,
the kids will be more tempted to use it as a
Yeah.
reference than to say, well, it's in your math book.
Right.
Find it,
Yeah.
you know, because they're like, I'm not looking back here.
Mhm.
But if they go there,
yeah.
it's easier for them and they're
And
be
I
more
feel like giving
comfortable.
them
Instant
access.
gratification.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I feel like giving them access to YouTube, like our guys would end up on music
Yeah,
or
definitely.
something
Mhm.
else.
Something I've done to combat that is for each lesson that I teach, I make like my own like notes for that video. So just like on a piece of printer paper, I'll write out, module 4, lesson 9, here's what I'm gonna do in the video, so that they can follow along with that. They hole punch it, they put it in their binder, and then when I say, okay, you're gonna be getting a test on multiplication, go find your lesson 9 notes and look at that or rewatch the video. It kind of helps out with that, straying off of the internet problem.
But if you don't save it to YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't have that problem. You just share it on.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
can always
just
just
share it on Google Classroom.
Because I can show
And
you.
Screencastify, they put, like, if you use Screencastify in your Google Drive, there'll be a folder called Screencastify, and that's where you'll find all your videos that you make with it. And you can rename them, and then you can pull them off and put them, just in Google Classroom like that, so.
Because for junior high, like what might help is like I have all my videos, like they're on YouTube, but the platform I use to have my students watch them is on Google Classroom. So it makes it a little bit easier because it just opens up in like the Google Classroom browser, and I
Yeah.
usually just kind of hold them to that, like stay in the browser for that. And I guess you kids probably know that they can click on the YouTube button and then get to YouTube.
Yeah.
Which could be a problem, but
But there's always, they'll
Right,
always
right.
find
There's
some
always
way
a
to
bug.
get, if you say, read this chapter, if the kid's not gonna read that chapter, they'll find some way to read something else or not do it, so, but, just, I think once they get in the habit and they know that you might be walking around, you can see what they're doing,
yeah,
there's a lot
especially
of that.
because during that time, if they're watching the video in class, it does help because you're probably going to be walking around during that time, and it's pretty easy to catch, like, oh, you're definitely not watching my video.
Yeah.
To kind of bring them back to what they're supposed to be doing. And I think there's like browser options through 109 where you can like block certain things and whatnot, so you might be able to work with that. And I can show you if you want Screencast-O-Matic. This is the one that I've been using the most recently. And I just like this because I can save things to my Google Drive if I want, but it just has a lot more options for me. So I can, again, record everything on there, but then when I record my video, I can do that again. When I'm done, there's a lot more options for editing my videos. Like I can add titles, I can add like little overlays, I can add notes, different things like that. So I just use this program just because it's a little bit more advanced, but it lets you have some more options for adding little notes and things like that throughout your video.
And user friendly.
Yeah, and it's really user friendly. It's really not too bad.
Yeah.
I would say probably the most irritating part of creating the videos is just when your video recording software doesn't work. You have some sort of problem, especially if you're trying to like squeeze it in during the planning periods, and for some reason your webcam isn't popping up. So that can get frustrating. So I would say when you're first starting out, I would suggest just doing it at a time when you're not like super time constrained, like during a time like a planning period. Just try it after school, plenty of time to work around that. And of course, this is your
And also, as we know, if you're doing this in class, you always have to have a backup plan in case the server goes down or the internet's down and, you know, they're not able to watch that.
And in that case, if there is like some sort of tech issue where like, oh, the internet's down today, or for some reason my YouTube video is not popping up, like you probably already taught, like you've already taught the lesson in the video, so you could always just teach it in
Just
class.
like,
So that does kind of help because you might have it fresh in your mind because you just made that video. It does get frustrating at times. I'm not gonna lie, like it can be a lot of hard work, but I do see it as like a good time investment because especially like this year I'm seeing, okay, I already made this video up in module 4, so I can just go back, pick up this video, and then plan the rest of my lesson around that.
and you can start small, you don't have to do like, if you do lesson 3 in a module, doesn't mean you have to do lesson 4 and lesson 5 and lesson 6. Try out a lesson that you think would be easy for you to film, and then, okay, see how that goes, and then, you know, start slow, don't try to do every single lesson all at once either.
So these are just examples of like videos I've done for like directions. So you can see like this is just a quick like 1.5 minute video. I'll show
Do you think kids can make a difference in the world? And then you're going to start writing. So you have your introduction, which goes in this box. You need to start with your opening sentence, and then you need to state your opinion with 3 reasons. Above each section, as you'll see, is
See, and this might be a good one, Courtney, to just have a document camera and pointing, because the main focus is on that document, so, not that that's not, you know, video,
Yeah, no,
but
I get what you're
that's,
saying. Yeah, before I realized that I could do like a dot cam for my videos, I would usually just like hold up a piece of paper and be
Yeah.
like, okay, let's do this. But you have, again, like lots of options. You can use dot cam, you can do videos like this.
yeah, and everybody's gonna have a different idea of how they wanna present, and it's up to you, whatever works for you in your class. I know if you're gonna be writing something on a whiteboard and referring to it, I did one with fraction terms and introduction to the vocabulary for fractions. And I had the information up on the whiteboard already, but I didn't want them to know everything at once. So I just took a piece of chart paper and covered up the sections, and as I was ready to give the next one, I pulled it down and then showed them. At the end, they had all the definitions.
And what's nice is when you're making the videos, you can always like pause in the middle of the video, kind of gather your thoughts or get like the next problem set up on the board, and then continue recording from there. So you don't ever have to feel like you have to do it all in one take or anything like that, because that could be stressful.
Or if you think it's going long, you know, make a couple videos, make part 1 of a video to a certain point, then you could have part 2 of the lesson. So you don't have to make one really long video, you could break it up into like 2 parts if you thought.
Just trying to see if I can find my math videos. For some reason, they're not popping up in YouTube today, of course. Of course. Okay. Well, if you do have the chance, you can always go on YouTube and you can watch my videos on there. You just search up like Heather O'Mara, and you can kind of see some like examples of ways that I've taught lessons over the past year. I have them on most of the Eureka math lessons right now. If you just look up Heather O'Mara, I'll be the first channel that pops up, unless somebody steals my name by then. And then you'll just see all my lessons here. And you can always just like click on that and just see how I usually set up my lessons.
And I know to start out at least in up to 5th grade, they use Eureka, and there's a lot of, Embark has a lot of videos for every lesson on there. You could even start using those to get your students used to the format of your math class, and find the ones that you want and say, watch that, just so you get comfortable with the structure and the format of your math block.
But anyway, you can go on YouTube and and check out the videos on there. And if you ever have any questions, you can always email me at homera@ic19.org or find me at Lyle.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions? I know it's kind of a lot to take in. No, it's good.
Yeah.
And then,
I don't know when you want that.
yeah.